So many times the kids come here not knowing anything. Sometimes they come from homes that they don't eat for that night. And here when this guy here, this boy was telling me that, he goes, "Teacher, I've never held a Bible in my hands before." He goes, "To me," he goes, "this is a privilege that I've never forget."
One of our students had a friend who wanted to come, even though he was like, I don't know, 6 weeks late into the school year. And so he came. We weren't sure. We told him, well, you may or may not pass this year because you're so late, because it's always kind of a guessing game. And I don't know, within 2-3 weeks, I don't know what happened, but he is so excited about God.
Well,
he wants to be baptized.
Alcida's been talking to him.
Yeah, we have a student, 2-3 students who've been sharing with him and studying with him.
Oh.
Most of them have emotional problems with their families. Most of them do not have parents together, or if they do, one is drunk with the other drunk, and they beat each other up, beat up the kids. And so they come here, and you get to deal with all that emotional baggage. And so when you have a girl reacting, you can't just think, she's got a bad attitude, she's having a temper tantrum. It could be a whole mountain of things from their past all welling up at one time, and they just can't deal with their past. And so they can't deal with the situation in front of them.
There's one student who would, she'd come here and she'd fight with the other students. She would actually, knock them down.
What do you do when a mother comes to you with her son crying, begging for help because he started doing drugs and he can't get out of it because of his friends? And he's begging for help.
A lot of the rich kids in town, they really have no purpose in life. They may go to school, but the other time they hang out with their friends. They only go to school half a day. They have all that rest of the time free. And so some of them get into drugs, or just video games, music, hanging out.
I went to the boys and asked them, "Are you guys willing to take this guy into the dorm with you?" They already didn't have room in the dorm for themselves, and they put a second floor in the dorm and said they'd take him.
Some are, they talk really crude, and, just us as staff and other students that help out, you can see characters change.
That's the neat part about being a missionary, because your life reflects on others.
Originally, the school was started, to reach out to poor people who didn't have the opportunity to pay for an education. Over time, the vision's changed a bit. We have a lot of rich kids who got involved in alcohol and drugs. And it's not like we're a reform school. God changes people's lives.
When I see a character change, I think, man, that's the most impossible thing to do for us to do. The only thing that can change character is God himself. I mean, man, that's the miracle in itself.
I love how the life of the students can change. You can see the power of God working in them.
And you almost see that every year. Every year there's somebody that's changing, because just the influence that is here and that we try to give, that we try to show.
And by the testimony of changed lives of one richer student, more and more keep flocking to the school, and their lives are changed by God. And it's purely by God. They're not forced to stay here. They come here voluntarily, and God changes their lives.
It doesn't always happen. We have students who, they've been here 2-3 years and we still struggle, but they're growing. Sometimes it takes a lot longer.
Our specific vision is to train missionaries. That the need is so huge for missionaries.
A lot of them are really on fire for mission work, but they want to go now. They want to quit school and go preach the gospel. They're in high school. They basically have no education. So we've really been trying to tell them, God has placed you here for a reason.
Then there's Joel. Joel's a fourth-year student. He came here as a freshman. He was actually ready to start his third year in high school, And he came here primarily for the purpose of studying. And he decided to go all the way back to first year, like as a freshman, start high school over again, for the purpose of receiving a good education.
We're teaching basic nursing classes, first aid, CPR. Last week we had practice doing suturing. We had bought some chickens from the village. Everybody's kind of shocked because Rowan went to town and bought the chickens, and they know we're vegetarians, and they're like, what are you guys doing with the chickens? And so we sutured.
He's a senior this year. He wants to be a doctor. He's already working in the nurse's office.
And it was wonderful because just this week we had a girl that had her hand cut with a machete, and so two of the students they were able to practice suturing.
He does, when people cut themselves with machetes, he stitches them up, and he's already really flourishing in the area of medicine. So it's amazing to see how he came with almost zero interest in the Bible, and how at the end of a year here his life was changed. So he got baptized, and then beyond that, he wants to be a medical missionary. That's his dream.
Just before, what was it, 6 months, a year before we decided to come to the mission field, you know, we were struggling with all this, and one of the things that we did that we probably shouldn't have done is we bought a dog. And we pretty well committed our lives to a dog. You know, God is merciful, and He works with our desires sometimes, and one of the stipulations we said was we will only go somewhere where we can take a dog. And it was one of the first questions we had for David. Can we take a dog? And then when we talked to Jeff, can we take a dog? And they all said, well, if you can get him down there, you can bring him. And so we did research, and we could get him down here, and so we brought him.
It's actually easier to get him to Bolivia than the average U.S. citizen.
Bushman,
go on. Go on.
You gotta look that way.
Look that way. Sit.
Sit.
I see.
I'm going back to sleep. I'm so lazy.
That stuff is really good. It's really good.
When my son and I got here, because we got here first, then my wife and my daughter came afterwards, a month afterwards. We got here Friday evening. And Friday evening, you know, at night, it's pizza night. So we said, you know, we were tired. We said, wow, we're going to have a good supper. We go to the cafeteria, and, you know, they're serving you a drink. And here, you know, you have to form a line to get your food, and, you know, with your own plates and everything. You know, we're tired, we're sleepy, we're hungry. We said, we're gonna eat, you know, we're gonna eat very well. And here, you stretch your plate out. And now that they give us a little piece of pizza like this big. And my son looks at me and he says, what's going on? I told him, just keep on moving, you know. For him, that wasn't supper. You know, he was hungry. So that was one of the first challenges that we had to meet.
There's challenges.
The first time I came, I thought I'd die, just from the heat.
Seeing like lots of difficulties, like the money.
I struggled a lot my first year here. I didn't like it.
There's a lot of insects.
Bugs.
But yeah, bugs. I hate bugs.
You're going to have like a strange disease coming here.
You have malaria, you have dengue.
Bathing in the river, the outhouses, everything at first.
I mean, you have tarantulas.
Before you start eating, you have 10, 15 flies all over your plate.
The snakes, all those wonderful things.
Language is a problem.
Sometimes you always feel like, man, you know, I'll never be able to speak the language.
And you listen to them trying to talk to you. Can help you.
I didn't like the environment, I didn't like the food, I just survived.
Sometimes you have to lay bricks. Last year, we made bricks. Out there mixing mud, mixing the molds, just giving her.
I always said there's two things I was never going to be. There were two things. I was never going to be a principal, and I was never going to live in a hot climate. I'm wearing a coat today. So now I'm working at a school as a principal in the jungle, South America.
Serving God is not all peaches and cream. You know, there's some really, really, really tough experiences, but being 100% sure of God's call and knowing where He's directed you really helps you get through the tough times.
It can be a big challenge, or it can be really interesting. Depends on the way you look at it.
He's always there, and He's never going to leave us nor forsake us. And He's brought us to this point to turn closer to Him. But it's not until you exercise it that you're going to know that He's going to be able to do it.
This year has been particularly challenging. Not as many people arrived to teach as we had anticipated. And Lily got in a plane accident, so she actually just arrived a week ago. And 2 weeks before that, Kayla and Helen got in a motorcycle accident. And for a couple weeks, we were down to 4 teachers on campus for 54 secondary students and 19 primary students. So our 4th year students got to take up the role of teaching. Joel took over Kayla's religion classes. Albricia took over primary school, planned it, and taught the classes for a couple weeks. There's always a need for teachers. We could use several more right now.
I want to do something with my life. I want to see things. I want to help people. I want to actually make a difference in a way. And here, you come down with a thought that you're going to be a hero. And when you get here, you realize there's no heroes. It's just plain dirty work. People are not so grateful, and they don't make a big show about what you do. They often ignore you. They often don't pay any attention to what you've done. You could give your all, work your fingers to the bone, and they don't really care sometimes. It's not heroic, but at the same time, there's a point, there's a purpose, and there's a fulfillment here and a peace that you cannot find anywhere else. And even though I do not make any money here, in fact, there is no money here, there's still work to do, and it is so fulfilling.
So it's just been a step-by-step of faith for us to be able to come here and to see how the Lord's opened one door after another. And you know, the hardest thing was to make the first step, to get uncomfortable. We have to, you know, step out of our comfort zones and realize, okay, Lord, if this is what you're going to do, we're going to make the steps also. So that's kind of how we got here.
Oftentimes people say, you know, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a pilot, I'm not a nurse. What can I do in God's work? You know, there's an endless list of possibilities that God has for each one of us to do. I have a degree in construction management. I worked as a construction manager for 6 weeks before I bought my own rustic furniture store, and ran a rustic furniture store for 4 years, and from there, God called me to Bolivia.
I love the changes that God is making in me. I love when I can see in my life how a person that feels so sad can be so happy now. And I'm so happy being a missionary, something that I never experienced before in my life. So I have decided to be a missionary forever because it just makes sense. It just makes sense to give everything to Jesus because He gave me everything already.
After you're 60 years old, 70 years old, and you ask yourself, what have I accomplished? And you tell yourself when you're on the couch in front of your TV, and you say, man, I'm a good Nintendo player, and I can pick out the best songs to listen to, and I can tell anybody the names of any song, whatever. Where does that get you? That just leaves you back on the couch. Know God and work for Him in any way you can, and you'll find your purpose.
He has something prepared for you. At the moment, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to go here. But if you let God lead in your life, you're going to see that He loves you so much, He cares for you, that He's willing to open doors that you won't be able to open, but He will.